Hello class, this is your teacher Mr. McDougall with your next Photoshop tutorial. For this one, it will be our next project in Photoshop, and this one is called My Name, where you are going to weave yourself through your own name in Photoshop using all of the techniques we've practiced so far, specifically in the past few lessons. So you'll be creating that effect following these instructions using these tools and techniques that we've been talking about. And there's no exercise files from me. Whenever it's a project, it means you're going to create your own exercise files with pictures. So the first thing you're going to need is a partner in class to take a photo of you. A couple of things to keep in mind. Make sure you take your photos following these rules. First thing is to show your face. Make sure it's not a picture of you standing facing away from the camera or the back of your head or something. As always, in all of these techniques, I want to see your face. You don't have to be looking straight into the camera. As you can see, I'm not looking into the camera, but my face is being shown. You can have a side profile if you want, but we can still tell who the person is in the shot. Secondly is make sure that it's a full body shot and that you're taking up a lot of space. You can see it's not a super close-up shot, like it's not cut off at my waist or anything. You can see your entire body from head to toe, and I'm taking up as much space as possible so I can leave room for the words in this landscape shot. Make sure it's a landscape shot that goes long ways left to right like this, so you have room to type your name. If you take a vertical photo, you're not going to have a lot of room, so make sure it's landscape like this. The last thing for your photo is to make sure that you strike a fun pose with your limbs extended, because we're doing this text weaving thing right here, and you won't be able to weave your text if you don't have your arms and or legs sticking out. If you're just taking a photo and you're standing still with your arms at your sides or your hands in your pockets, there's nothing for you to weave through. So don't take a picture like that. Take a fun pose where your arms and or legs are extended, just like you saw in all the exercise files I gave you in the previous lessons. All those subjects, they're striking fun poses, or they're jumping in the air, or their arms and legs are sticking out, allowing us to create this weaving effect. And the other thing you'll need, as you can tell from this, is a new background, but we'll get into that in just a moment. So once you take your photos, have your partner take your photos to get to this next step where you can bring it into Photoshop. Once you have your photo, then you can come back to this part in the video and we'll get started. Okay, so you have your photo. The first thing we're going to do with our photo is select out our subject, and we're going to put them on a new background. So I've already selected out my subject right here, but what I want you to do is take your time, use your quick select tool to select yourself out as cleanly as possible. Once you've done that, add your layer mask and make sure you go in and use selected mask as needed to clean up any spots that you may have missed. So with my selected mask, I can go in, make sure I did a good job, specifically on the hair. Everyone has different hair. Depending on how your hair looks, this will be the part you want to clean up with the selected mask, making sure it looks good. All right. I need to fix that actually. Here we go. Much better. So whatever your selection looks like, that's what the selected mask comes in to clean it up, making it look as clean as you possibly can. Perfect. So again, pause the video if you haven't selected yours. Get to the point where you can keep up with me. If you start falling behind, just pause the video and resume where I am. So now that you have yourself selected out in your fun pose, you need to find a new background to put yourself on. So this is where you can go on Google and download something. Make sure you find a nice big large file. The cameras that we take, they take really large resolution, over 2,000 or 3,000 pixels. So you want your new background that you find to be something close to that. If you download something and it's really tiny and you're going to be much bigger than it, you don't want to use a photo like that. Try to find the highest resolution possible for whatever photo you're going to use. So you could put yourself, in another country or Disneyland or on the moon like you see here, wherever you'd like to put yourself in your new background, that's fine. So take yourself and either copy paste, or what I like to do is just use the move tool to drag and drop right there. Yes. So you can see this is a fairly large background that I found. I'm a little bit bigger, and you will definitely be bigger in whatever background you chose. So you got to shrink yourself just a little bit to fit. Don't go too much. You want to take up a lot of space. Before you start shrinking yourself too much, the first thing we need to do is convert ourselves into a smart object. So when we do shrink, we don't crush our pixel resolution. So on your masked out version, right click, convert it to a smart object. And then we are going to add a layer mask. So this is just like we did in the text weaving lesson. Even though we already added a layer mask, we're going to add another one after we do the smart object so we can brush the body behind the text. So I'm going to zoom in here again. Okay, make sure you're taking up a lot of space. You do not want to edit where you're way down here or something like that. That's not good. We want to take up as much space as we possibly can. Let's go maybe something right about there. I like that. Leaving room for the text. All right, so the first thing you'll need to do, because wherever you take your photo on campus will be very different from the new background that you've chosen, is we need to create a levels adjustment for our body. So you can see that my lighting doesn't necessarily match the lighting of the background. I'm kind of a different color altogether. So the first thing we're going to do is create a levels adjustment layer. And this is something we did long ago, all the way back in the beginning of the course. So go up to levels. Under your adjustments, go to levels. And when you adjust this levels slider right here, remember this one controls the highlights and the shadows, you'll see that it's affecting the entire image. I don't want it to affect the entire image. I just want it to affect me. So just like we did with the burn shadow, we're going to create a clipping mask. So let's click on this little option right here to create a clipping mask, or you can go up to layer and do create clipping mask. So now, with it being directly on top of me and pointing down, it means that these level sliders will only affect me and not the background image. Do this, myself a little bit brighter, so I match a little bit more. There we go. So make sure you do the same thing for yourself to kind of match the lighting of the new background that you've chosen. Okay. Now we're going to start weaving our text through here. So let's go to our type tool, and you're going to type in your name. Do your first or your last name, whichever one is longer. You want to take up as much space and give you enough letters to weave through. So I'm going to do my last name because it's longer. Give me more options. Make it nice and big. Again, taking up as much space in the photo as you possibly can. If you strike a pose like mine, another thing you could do is rotate it. If I hover my mouse over here outside the corner, you can see it turns this little curve arrow. I could do that, and I can rotate it like this to turn it down, make it more of an angle. So if you want to angle it a little bit, you could totally do that. See, I kind of go like that and then bring it down right about there. That looks cool. I like that. So again, either first or last name, whichever one is longer of your two names. So that way you give yourself more letters to play with. All right. So now that we've done that, we can bring our text layer in between our background and our masked out layer right there. So now we're already there with ourselves being in front of the text, which already looks pretty cool. So before we start weaving and adding our burn shadow to the text, let's add our burn shadow to the ground wherever we're standing. As you can see, I'm on the moon now, but I don't have a shadow on the moon, so that doesn't look real. Take your background, your new background, and let's duplicate it with Command J. And this one will be our shadow. So I'm going to actually rename this one to shadows, because as I mentioned, renaming your layers helps keep things organized. So now I know this one's the shadow. That way you don't have a bunch of layers that are just called layer or copy. So with the shadow layer, I'm going to go back to my burn tool, and I'm going to start burning where I'm standing. You can see as I'm brushing, it's getting darker. And again, yours will look different depending on whatever background you chose. Yours might not look the same as mine at all. But just make sure the shadow is darker where your body makes contact with the ground. And the cool thing about having my name already here is I'm actually going to extend it just a little bit to make it look like my name is also casting a shadow. Very lightly though. Not super hard. You want to be gentle, small strokes with your burn tool. There we go. And this is where it'll be the darkest, where I'm on top. There we go. That's looking pretty cool. So you have the shadow layer now right there, and I've extended it really long to make it look like the letters are also casting a shadow. All right, now let's start weaving ourselves through the text. I'm going to zoom in a little bit to pick the spots that I want to weave through. So for that, we're going to brush on our layer mask that we did on ourselves right over here. So this one, this layer mask, don't do the levels one. You want the one with your masked out copy of your body. All right, so let's go to our brush tool. Make sure the brush is set to black. And again, you probably want your hardness to be at 100 or close to it because you're going to make some pretty precise brush movements here to start having your body weave through like that. If you go too far, you can always Command Z to undo or switch back to white. I think I'm actually going to switch it like this. I kind of want, nope. Oops. See, I was brushing the picture and not my mask, so be careful. Brush it however you'd like. I think I'm going to have my arm going through the O right here. And this is the part where you can be creative and have fun because obviously the way you brush yours was going to look totally different because your pose will be different from mine and your name is different from mine. So find the spots that you want to brush and weave through the letters of your name. Being slow and precise. Be careful like that. See, I went too far. So I can just make my brush smaller. Switch back here. And bring it back. So just switch back and forth with your white and black to see how you want to do it. There we go. Weaving through the letter O. And let's say I'm going to weave through the D over here. See, went too far again. That's okay. This is why you want to be precise. You want a hard brush for this part. This is different from the text weaving we did before, because we don't have our original background to fill in the gaps. So we want to be very precise with this one. There we go. And then pick the same spots where you want to do it again. So let's do it right here. I'm going to have my name go behind the G. You see, I'm taking my time, being precise, and just switching back and forth. If I go too far and make a mistake, easily fixable. Trying again. And let's have fingers go back there. There we go. It's looking pretty good. All right, I'm liking that. And remember, you can see here from my extended arms pose, it allows me to weave through the letters however I like. So make it so you're kind of weaving through every other letter. Perfect. All right, so now we're going to do our burn shadow to our text layer. So make sure you've woven yourself in a way that you really like it, because the next part will involve destructive editing to the text. So once we've rasterized the text, you cannot go back and edit the text in any way. So make sure you've gotten it to where you like it so far. All right, so now we're ready to rasterize the type. So on this type layer, right-click on it and do rasterize type. So now it's no longer text, it's an image layer. But that also means that now we can use our burn tool on it. So grab your burn tool and burn the parts where your body is in front of the text. So any spots where you're going over the text, like my arm is going over the D right here, I'm going to brush right there, very lightly. Just like we did before, make sure that your text color is either white or a very bright color, or else you won't be able to see the shadows. So you want to make it look like we're in front of these letters. Anywhere that you're in front of the letter, just brush. And again, you don't have to worry about brushing yourself because you're not going to be affected. It's only affecting the text because it's on its own layer completely. Two separate layers means it's not going to be affected on the one that's not selected. Brush right here. My arm is just going back and forth a couple of times. I'm clicking and letting go. Each small click will make the shadow gradually get darker. Go. That's looking good. Let's do right here, where I'm standing in front of the letter U. Nice. Awesome. That is looking good. All right, so that will be the last step using everything we've done so far. And remember, this is a project, so you're not going to take a screenshot of this. We only do screenshots with exercise files. When projects, you export them. So go up to File, Export, Export As. It should already be set to JPEG, and you'll export it into the folder where you saved your original pictures. So my name is where you took your photos, just save it in there. Another question I get is, can I do this with a partner? Can we have two people in here? The answer is yes. You just need to make sure that each of you still edits the photo. So if you take one with your friend, it doesn't mean your friend has to edit and you don't have to do anything. You each still need to edit the photo, and you have to edit both of your names. So if you're standing there with your friend and you're doing some kind of pose where you're connected or something, you must put both of your names in there and weave through both of them. Don't do any more than that. Don't do 3, 4, or 5 people. That'll be way too many. But you can do it with a partner if you would like, and have both of your names edited here, and then turn them into the project. So ask me if you have any questions. Other than that, have fun, and I can't wait to see how you weave through your own name, and I'll see you on the next one.